What's happening, everybody? It's Rod with POW Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ Stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Today is Friday. Happy Friday, April 25th. Hope you're well. And in this video, by popular request, going to take a look at the HBAR chart. I'll give my thoughts and opinions on the price action and the technicals in the days, weeks, months ahead. But as always, this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. Spoiler alert, we do have a death cross that has since been completed. We were looking at that as the most likely scenario and giving us clues that we could see more downside. We also had a weekly bear flag, but that has since flipped into a daily bull flag. So we'll take a look at those patterns and more. Before we do, make sure to smash the like, help support me in the channel. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff. You'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. And you can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter. Handle for that is @GroupPow. Going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. And again, never buy or sell anything based on anything that I say or write. And full disclosure, I do own HBAR in my portfolio, a very large position. I think about maybe like it's large to me, large. It's about 5% of my portfolio. My whole entire portfolio is basically XRP. It's about 80% XRP at the moment, but I'm very bullish on HBAR as well. If you haven't seen my entire crypto portfolio video as well, you can check that out. I'm going to be doing another one at some point soon, and I'm actually working with a startup right now, a cool new idea to do real-time portfolio tracking. So stay tuned for more details on that in the coming months and yeah, well, hopefully weeks, but months for it's seeming like at the moment they're, like I said, a startup, so they're just getting their ducks in a row, but exciting project. So we'll jump into the chart here on the weekly time frame, as I mentioned in a previous video, and to the POW Group private community, might have been on a live stream with one of the requests that we had from the community. We were looking at a weekly bear flag. So we had our high, our low, and then we started the weekly bounce. It was a very, very weak bounce. And then once we came down and lost support here, we confirmed the weekly bear flag. And then we had a measured move of about 13 cents. And then on the pullback, we hit about 12 cents. So, but if you ignore the lower wick, it was actually right on the money. And you can see it hung out in that area for quite a while. But off of the lows here, we're now up about 63% off of the local low, which is great to see. We did hit daily oversold. So when you see a big move like this, right, when it was one of the biggest gainers as well, like HBAR was up almost 900% in just a couple of months. When you go almost 10x on a name like that, you have to expect a pullback first and foremost. But secondly, daily oversold territory is generally a phenomenal area to start entering. So even if you started entering here on the RSI, you can see here we got close to oversold. We were sitting at around 33. Anything 30 and below is considered oversold. So even if you started entering here, right, before we actually printed daily oversold, you would have had an opportunity here to add at 17 cents, another opportunity just below that, still though at 17 cents. And then it just got weaker and weaker. And it was actually a descending triangle, which I can draw. I'm just seeing it here now as I make this video. But as you can see, that would be a descending triangle. You have your sloping line of resistance and your horizontal line of support here. And then you would just take your measured move there from the high to the low, move that out to your neckline. And it was saying somewhere around that 11.5 cent, and we hit 12.2 cents. So very, very close to hitting that. And again, this is just confluence. Confluence means multiple charts, chart patterns, signals, indicators, all saying the same thing. When they're all singing the same tune, then we're going to believe that as the most likely scenario. We also had a weekly bear flag, and we had a death cross, as I mentioned. So the 50-day came down through the 100. That was red flag number one. Then we topped out right at those moving averages, flipped them from support into resistance, red flag number two. And then the 50-day and the 200-day moving average cross, that was what broke that was the last straw, essentially, right? So after that, we had our flush, and then that has since been completed. But again, we're finding resistance at that 200-day moving average. So I wouldn't rule out one more potential flush down, maybe around that 16 cent, 14 cent area before we really start to gain some momentum. It's going to be at least a few weeks, in my opinion, before we see HBAR and some of these altcoins go bananas, I guess, as the best way to put it. I would assume that Bitcoin will continue to trend higher. That's typically how things have worked in the past. We'll see money rotate at a Bitcoin, and it's looking like that. If you just take a look at the Bitcoin chart here, you can see that the MACD on the weekly is very close to happening. So again, I think that with Bitcoin dominance rising and how high it is, I think what we're in DXY, the dollar index is breaking down, which is great to see, and losing 100 and now flipping 100 from support into resistance. Again, technical analysis 101. That's exactly what we want to see for risk on in the market. And the M2 money supply, just global liquidity really starting to ramp up. But I think somewhere around 120, 140, 140K on Bitcoin, more than likely the most likely scenario before the end of this bull cycle. And then we're even starting to see Ethereum wake up a little bit. So, that's a good sign as well, because typically, you don't get your full blown alt season, which would benefit HBAR, unless, Ethereum and Bitcoin are doing well. And typically what happens is Bitcoin will run, money will rotate into alts after the fact. And then typically Ethereum does well before full blown alt season as well. It just shows that market breadth is opening up, expansion in the market, and risk on. So I think, I don't subscribe to the idea that Bitcoin's going to hit 250K this cycle. I think somewhere around that 120, 140 is the most likely scenario. It makes the most sense to me. And then we should start to see alts, kind of rotate out of Bitcoin into Ethereum and then into full blown alt season. And I think HBAR is going to be one of those names. I think HBAR could easily, hit somewhere around a couple of dollars in a full blown alt season. And I've done a video on, where I anticipate the price to go, but we got very extended here on the weekly time frame. We were above all of our weekly moving averages. And again, what happens with these moving averages? What do we use them for? It's just a gauge. We use RSI. We can use relative strength index to see if you're overbought or oversold. The moving averages just shows you the price. It tracks, like, these are lagging indicators, so it tracks the price. But generally what happens is we get extended to the upside, we come back and we gravitate back towards it, get extended to the downside, same thing, gravitate back towards it. So as you can see, the further away we get, the more nervous we get, right? The more skeptical we get, I guess, is a better way. You don't want to be emotional. What you want to be is looking at it with data and logic, right? And you say logic and data would say, hey, we're getting pretty extended here. We just had a 10x move with no support. We could easily pull back 40, 50% minimum. And we pulled back a lot more than that. If you go from the local high there to the low, it was down almost 70%. So, and that's in a bull market, right? We're still in a bull market. So get extended, generally come back down to earth and back test those levels, right? But we also had the death cross. So there was tons of confluence. Confluence, again, just means multiple chart patterns, signals, indicators, all saying the same thing. But the fact that Bitcoin, like I said, stochastic bull cross, MACD is very close to set happening. So we can get that behind us. We can get that out of the way. Bitcoin should continue its momentum, like I said, past that 100, somewhere around 120, 140K, I think is the most likely scenario. And then full blown alt season will more than likely ensue after that. We also have crypto legislation coming up over the next couple of months. So the timeline does line up. But as you can see, we had the weekly bear flag. So now that we got the bearish patterns out of the way, we'll flip to the daily time frame here. So on the daily, we do have a bullish continuation pattern that confirmed, and we'll just draw that out. So we go from our low to the high. We also just had a daily EMA 12 and 26 bull cross, and the weekly bounce underway for the last couple of weeks. But as you can see here on the daily time frame, this is actually a daily bull flag. You just take your measured move there from the low to the high of that bounce, move it out to your 0.32 fib. And you can see here, this is another example where I like to use the Fibonacci and daily bull flags as entries for longs, because on this move, as long as we held 15.8 cents, generally, if we hold the 0.32 fib on the daily consolidation, that's what's considered a bull flag. And again, if you just ignore that little lower wick there, I mean, it was pretty much to a T, a perfect daily bull flag. And then the measured move was up around 22, just under 23 cents. Just under 23 cents. So if we look at where we were, you could have got an entry here somewhere around, that 15 cent area, or if you got it right on the low, 15.4 cents, and you have a clear level to go off of, right? That you can put your stop. Generally, what I would recommend is just below the 0.5, because sometimes they like to go stop loss hunting. They like to do a quick bear trap before they have the breakout. So again, this was a bear trap, and then we continued that move higher in that bullish continuation pattern. So you could have entered here at 15 cents and set your stop just under 15 cents. You could do 14.9 or 14.8 cents, and you would have allowed some wiggle room. And essentially you would have risked about 3 to 3.5%, and your potential reward would be 45%. So that is great risk to reward opportunity there. So hopefully that helps. And if we just zoom in here as well on the 4-hour time frame, there is a potential head and shoulders that could be forming. It's a little premature at the moment, but we would just take our head and shoulders tool and bring that out here to the neckline. So if we do continue 4-hour consolidation and come down and lose the 4-hour uptrend, key support in the short term is going to be 18.4 cents. If we lose that, then we're no longer in a 4-hour uptrend and we have no support down to that neckline. So it's a potential head and shoulders forming here. And then if that were to be the case, again, that is in line with my thinking that we could see a little bit more turbulence and again, more focus on Bitcoin before alts really start to continue to, well, really see a full-blown alt season that we've all been waiting for. And then this would be in line with the previous area of confluence as well, but brings us back down to around 15.2 cents. So again, very premature, very early in this formation here. But again, just look at 18.4 cents, lose that, lose the 4-hour uptrend, and then we're more than likely anticipating a type of head and shoulders, which is just a bullish reversal a bearish reversal pattern. If it's an inverse, it's a bullish reversal, right? So if you do invert the scale, that's an inverse head and shoulders. Generally, those break to the upside. So we'll be monitoring that, but overall, nice move here off of the lows. Like I said, in a full-blown alt season, I think, if we just take our measured move here, where potentially could we see? So from the high to the low, let's use our fib extension levels. I said somewhere around that, $1 to $2 mark is very doable for HBAR. And the 4.618 would put us up around 70 cents. I think $1 or $2, this cycle is very doable for HBAR. I mean, we just hit 40 cents with barely any any effort at all in a very short period of time, just in a little over a couple months. So I think somewhere around that $1 to $2 mark, very realistic for HBAR this cycle. And maybe $5 to $10 on the following cycle. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how many catalysts we can get strung together. And yeah, we just have to be patient, right? Things happen quickly. Time in the market right now is better than trying to time the market. But again, if you're looking for those shorter term trades, that's where I like those, using those daily bull flags and entering on daily consolidation close to the 0.32 fib, set your stop under the 0.5 fib. But hopefully, I know it's kind of like speaking a different language sometimes, but I'm starting to see a lot of it in the Power Group private community as well, where people are really starting to grasp these concepts. And it's always great to see that whenever that happens, right? Because like I said, you learn it for so long, and it just sounds like a different language, and then eventually it starts to click. So hopefully this video was helpful. If it was, smash the like. I would appreciate it. Share the video with anybody that might find value. It's Rod with Power Group. Thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth. Once again, a happy Friday. Hope you have a great weekend ahead, and we'll see you on the next video.